It's the 18th of September, 2025, which means it's it's around about a week since Charlie Kirk was murdered in Utah in America, and it's about 4 or 5 days since the Unite the Kingdom march in London, which was huge, an absolutely huge march. Far in excess of the 110,000 figure that was cited by the mainstream media and the Metropolitan Police. It was far greater than 110,000. I'm certain of that just looking at the numbers on the aerial photographs. As usual, and it's an attempt to play down the amount of support it gained, and also it was labelled as a far-right march, organised by the far-right Tommy Robinson, neither of which are true, and anybody who takes any real interest in it knows perfectly well that that's not true. Basically, combined with the countless numbers of leftists who immediately went online after the news of Kirk's murder, hit the news, who were celebrating it, just gleefully parading their joy that this father of a 1-year-old and a three-year-old daughters, in a happy marriage, they've revealed their complete, total, fanatical, ideological character, which is simply taken leave of their humanity. It's made them less than human, and the whole world can see that now. In response to Starmer's remarks that we will not let our flag be taken by these imposters, these far-right thugs. Oh, come on, please. Keir Starmer, you are I don't know what to call you, really. You do not represent the common British people. You absolutely do not represent the people who founded the Labour Party. Yeah, you are an excuse of a Prime Minister. You're an excuse of a Labour Party leader. So I wrote what I actually want to say here a few days after the day after the Unite the Kingdom march, whose numbers, by the way, were definitely boosted by the wish to just respond to Charlie Kirk's murder. I've called it Starmer the Weak. The British Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer represents everything that's spiritually and politically weak in modern Britain. His party's pandering to juvenile political activism has finally resulted in its giving itself juvenile activist political leaders who are petulant rather than strong, and are ideological fanatics rather than grounded realists capable of serving and protecting our nation. They have no idea, in fact, what men and women are, let alone what nationhood is, and for that reason don't just see no need to protect our nation, but are actively trying to systematically dismantle it and reduce our country to nothing more than an administrative unit bound together by nothing more than a state. Its people's history and cultural identity rendered obsolete and marginalised by a multiculturalism that encourages mass immigration, not of individuals seeking personal betterment, but of foreign cultural communities whole and intact, regardless of their compatibility or lack of it with the culture of we whose country this is. This has been a protracted betrayal of our historic people by a class educated enough to subscribe to an ideological worldview that, with no organic roots, represents only those who subscribe to it. They are no more than a closed society within our society, a club, an intellectual fraternity whose constant, strident rhetoric continually inspires death threats against all, like the once highly respected J.K. Rowling, who effectively oppose them, and has already inspired physical and legal attacks on political opponents across the West, 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, and the recent murder of Charlie Kirk. Quite simply, they are a lethal, fanatical, ideological cult who openly and consistently, publicly admit to being willing to achieve the ideals they hold to be righteous by any means necessary. This slogan appearing on our streets shortly after the obscenely savage violence meted out against Jewish grandparents, mothers, fathers, children and babies on October the 7th, 2023 by Palestinian militants who they support and have made political allies. They are not our nation's leaders or protectors. They are its sworn enemies, and it's time for our whole nation to wake up to this. This cult is treacherous, cunning, murderous, and seditious. It's eating away the fabric of our country from within. Its loyalty is to its own ideas, not to our historic people. We urgently need to reject them completely before they do any more damage to our nation. That's all I want to say, really, except only to flag up what will almost certainly be a future video, which is that words, remember the old saying, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words can never harm me. God, nothing could have ever been further from the truth than that. Words, when they are being used to orchestrate political violence against opponents, especially within democratic countries, are certainly proven to be capable of causing violence. The left knows that, which is why it has tried to silence anybody who basically doesn't agree with their philosophy. And we have to understand this too. As I say, I'll do a future video about this, but there is no such thing as absolute freedom of speech. You are not free to speak seditiously, which is to say, in a way which is calculated to forcefully overthrow the state. You're not free to speak in that way. You are not free to speak in ways which inspire murder. And for all those people those people on the left who did celebrate Charlie Kirk's murder and are now ruining the fact that they opened their big fat mouths because they've been sacked by their employers. And there is quite a lot of that going on now, especially in America. I say to those people, well, I say to everybody, obviously, that wants to watch this video, that is not an infringement of free speech by we, the loyal subjects of the British Crown or the citizens of the United States. That is not an infringement of free speech, because celebrating murder publicly on on the new media actually is an incitement to murder. Personally, I think they should not only be sacked, I think they should be arrested and prosecuted for the crime of incitement of murder. There must be some sort of crime to that effect. In fact, in the case, in Charlie Kirk's case, which was a political murder, it actually is a form of sedition aimed at destroying America's democracy. It aims to destroy it because it aims to eliminate the political opposition. That's not a democracy. That's a one-party state. And they openly brag about being proud, grateful to the Charlie Kirk's murderer for beginning the elimination of the political opposition. That's sedition. And they should be, I don't know if there are different degrees of sedition, but when you look at the hoo-ha that they kicked up about the demonstration outside of the Congress building when Trump's when Trump was ending his first presidency, and they made out that was an insurrection. Well, it was dramatic, but it wasn't an insurrection. It was just a demonstration that got out of hand. It wasn't an insurrection at all. It was people demanding some sort of political justice. Even if they were wrong, it still wouldn't classify as an insurrection. This actually does, or it's the beginning. It's sedition. It's the beginning point of actual insurrection against America's democracy. If you firmly believe that murder is a valid tactic for getting rid of the opposition, then that is sedition. But likewise, if you allow mass immigration, meaning which amounts to the immigration of entire hostile foreign communities into your country, you are also practicing something which essentially is seditious, because you cannot not understand that by bringing hostile foreign communities into the country, your purpose is basically to try to overwhelm and crush any political representations, political expressions of that country's, your country's traditional identity, its traditional political identity. Which means that too actually is, I mean, everybody senses this, but nobody's been able to quite articulate it properly. I'm still waiting for people like Nigel Farage to really grasp just what's at stake here. Farage doesn't grasp what's at stake. Or at any rate, if he does, he's not willing to say so, because he is actually a populist politician. All politicians in democratic countries tend to be populist. I don't have to worry about that because I'm not trying to be elected. I don't even need more than a few dozen views. I've said what I've said. I'll leave it to whoever watches this to decide whether it's true or not.